Today's video is brought to you by The Lord of the Rings Fate of the Fellowship, the brand new cooperative Middle-earth board game. Each playthrough is a new experience as you chart your own course in an effort to destroy the ring and bring down Sauron. His is one of the greatest betrayals in the entire history of Middle-earth. One of the mighty Ainur, an Istari, sent to stand against the evil of Sauron. Yet he would instead turn toward evil himself, seeking to use the very weapons of the enemy and rule the world. But what if this turncoat was not so? What if he had remained true to his mission and aided the free peoples to the best of his abilities? Today on Nerd of the Rings, we cover what would happen if Saruman had remained good. In order to find a Saruman who remains good, we must begin our tale when he leaves the path of wisdom. In the canon tale, this comes around the time of the first White Council meeting, circa 2463 of the Third Age. It is at this meeting that Galadriel says Gandalf the Grey should be made leader of this group of the wise. Gandalf refuses the post, and Saruman is made its leader instead. While any theory involving a heroic Saruman would involve changes to his actions, I believe his jealousy of Gandalf is so ingrained into the character, it is likely something he would need to rise above, not something we can completely remove from him. After all, we find in Unfinished Tales that his jealousy goes back even to their days in Valinor, when Varda, said Olorin, as Gandalf is known there, may be the third of the Istari assigned, but is not third in importance. While his jealousy of Gandalf would certainly play a role in his later actions, even more instrumental is what is also happening around this time. Saruman spends years in Minas Tirith, in the very archives where Gandalf would later read Isildur's scroll. There he finds out all he can about Sauron, the One Ring, and other important events, including the fact that a Palantir likely resides in the Tower of Orthanc. While in the canon tale, Saruman would come to envy Sauron's power and desire the One Ring for his own, today we travel down the route of Saruman remaining good. Thus, the White Wizard is not consumed by a desire for power and to rule Middle-earth. Rather, he stands true to his mission and seeks to use his knowledge to bring about the downfall of the Dark Lord, without becoming one himself. Just as in the canon tale, Saruman takes up residence in Isengard, with enthusiastic support of Steward Baron of Gondor and King Freylaf of Rohan. But rather than having ulterior motives, Saruman does this in a genuine act of allying with the free peoples of Middle-earth. Just as Gandalf is befriending the peoples of Eriador and the North, Saruman is establishing strong ties with the men in the South. For decades, Saruman's friendship with Gondor and Rohan would grow. All the while, he continues to study the Rings of Power, even going so far as to speak about them with former residents of Eregion, Galadriel, and Celebrimbor. An open and honest Saruman is not only capable of sharing knowledge with his allies, but learning from them. The pivotal year in our story is 2851 of the Third Age. Saruman meets the rest of the White Council in Rivendell, where Gandalf urges his friends to launch an attack upon Dol Guldur, for the necromancer was indeed Sauron returned. In the canon story, Saruman overrules the Grey Wizard, and he would later say the One Ring had been washed out to the sea, and that there was no need to attack a diminished Sauron, incapable of regaining his power. In reality, these are lies told by Saruman as he aims to find the ring for himself. With a faithful Saruman, however, he instead shares the truth of what he has learned of the One Ring, that it likely still resides in the Anduin near the very place Sauron now calls home. He also shares what he learned from Isildur's scroll, that the ring when cooled was simple and unadorned, but that its secret, revealed by fire, was the language of Mordor. In a menacing, powerful, and harsh voice, Saruman recites, Ajnaj durbatuluk, Ajnaj gimbatul, Ajnaj trakatuluk, Agburzum ishi krimpatul. Never before has any voice dared to utter the words of that tongue in Imladris, Saruman the White, said Elrond as the shadow passed. And let us hope that none will ever speak it here again, Saruman answered. Nonetheless, I do not ask your pardon, Master Elrond. For if that tongue is not soon to be heard in every corner of the West, then let all put doubt aside that we must face the evil of Dol Guldur and ensure he never reclaims the One. Thus, a full 90 years earlier than in the canon story, the White Council launches their attack upon Dol Guldur. Sauron flees, and with the Nazgul having prepared it for well over 800 years by this point, he flees to Mordor, just as in the canon tale. Saruman and the White Council are encouraged by their victory. If Sauron had reclaimed his ring, he would surely have fought rather than fled. Having not been told the ring has washed out to the sea, the council agrees that they must attempt to find the ring to ensure that it does not come to Sauron by other means. Due to their proximity, Galadriel and Celebrimbor assign elven forces to both guard and search the wide area around the Gladden Fields. While he had met him in a crazed state a year earlier, Gandalf is sad to discover that Thrain had perished within the walls of Dol Guldur. For now, the White Council parts ways as the elven search ensues. Galadriel and Celebrimbor to Lorien, Saruman back to Isengard, and Gandalf volunteers to return Thrain's remains to his son, Thorin Oakenshield. Not only did Gandalf feel an obligation to the dwarf, he was likely the last friendly face that he saw, but Gandalf's thoughts turned toward another presence in the north, one he believes could ally with Sauron in his quest to bring destruction to the Free Peoples. Thus, Gandalf makes his way to the Blue Mountains. Thorin is deeply saddened by his father's death, but glad to know for certain what he had long feared. As we are told in the canon tale, Thorin by this time has taken on the kingship of Durin's folk, and for now he and his people are content with their life in the Blue Mountains. Still, Gandalf gently laments that perhaps one day, Thrain's dream of returning to Erebor would be realized by others. After attending the funeral of Thrain, son of Thror, Gandalf wishes the dwarves well and resumes his travels in the north. For decades, the elves would search in vain for the One Ring near the Gladden Fields. However, since Saruman did not take the step of searching this area for himself, it is the elves that make a shocking discovery: human bones, and an adornment made of mithril. The treasure is the Elendilmere, and the bones are the very remains of Isildur. While their search is certainly in the right location, it would be fruitless, for the One Ring was long gone. In the very year of their first White Council meeting, it was found by Gollum, and by this time he has long lived in the Misty Mountains. As the decades pass, Gandalf would visit the hobbits of the Shire and his other friends throughout the north. Meanwhile, Saruman seeks to discover the secrets of the Rings of Power, and just as in the canon tale, he attempts to create his own, not to enhance his power, but in an effort to understand their making. All this is in a hope of perhaps finding an alternate means to their undoing. Over the years, Thorin begins to feel the desire to return to and reclaim their home of Erebor, just as in the canon tale. Thus, the tale of the Hobbit plays out largely unchanged. The only exception is that Gandalf has no need to leave the company in the latter half of the journey, for Dol Guldur is not inhabited by Sauron, though 3 of his Nazgul are secretly there to prepare for later battles to come. Still, the end result of Bilbo's journey is the same. Smaug is slain, and the Battle of 5 Armies ensues. Thorin, Kili, and Fili are killed, and Dane Ironfoot becomes the new king under the mountain. Yet there is a key difference: knowledge. Thanks to Saruman, Gandalf is not only aware that the One Ring remains in Middle-earth, but after 90 years of fruitless searching, the elves have determined the ring is not in or around the Gladden Fields. Gandalf is naturally far more skeptical of Bilbo's ring found within the Misty Mountains, confronting the Hobbit about it in private on their way home from Erebor. Bilbo tells of his encounter with Gollum and shows the ring to Gandalf. As they spend Yule in the home of Beorn the Skin Changer, Gandalf tosses the ring into the fireplace in the center of the room. His fears are confirmed. Bilbo's ring is the one. He explains the dire meaning of his experiment to Bilbo and Beorn. Gandalf says he and the halfling must make their way to a position of strength. Beorn, realizing the importance of this mission, insists that he accompany them to provide protection. Rather than heading to Rivendell, they traveled to their allies east of the mountains. Arriving in Lorien, they are greeted by Galadriel and Celeborn. The elves are shocked to discover the chance circumstance of a hobbit obtaining that which their people had so long sought. One night, Bilbo comes to the Mirror of Galadriel, and like his nephew in the canon tale, he sees visions of what may come to pass. But rather than destruction in the Shire, he sees a black tower, a figure in white, and great battles in a desolate landscape. Unlike Frodo, Bilbo does not offer the ring to Galadriel, for he is far more confident, having just taken part in the reclamation of Erebor, and his greatest guide is alive and well. Accompanied by a force of elves and their rulers, Gandalf, Bilbo, and Beorn continue south around Fangorn Forest and on to Isengard, a position of strength protected by Saruman's allies, the Rohirrim. They are joined from the west by Elrond and his advisors. Thus, in 2942 of the Third Age, within the Tower of Orthanc, is held the Council of Saruman. Saruman, Elrond, Gandalf, and Bilbo combine to tell the known story of the ring, though there is a gap in their knowledge of what transpired with Gollum. For as we know in the canon tale, he will not leave his mountain home for another year, so he has not been interrogated by Gandalf. Saruman reveals his experimentation with rings has yielded no results as to an alternate means of destroying Sauron's ring. They have no choice but to take the ring to Mount Doom. As Sauron has not declared himself openly as in the canon tale, they cannot be certain what the situation is within Mordor. Here, Saruman reveals something he has long kept secret and unused: the Palantir of Orthanc. Finally, in this hour of great need, he uses the orb, gazing to the southeast. He sees legions of orcs across a barren plain before he is interrupted. A piercing presence, seeking to find out who he was and what he knew. Breaking off the connection, Saruman turns to his allies. Sauron is in Mordor, and so are his armies. This confirms that they will face great challenges in the quest to destroy the ring. However, this is no secret fellowship. The White Council's victory over Sauron has given them confidence in their power. And while they are fully aware they cannot hope to wield the ring without corruption, they are in a position of relative power. They are not only united, but their allies, Gondor and Rohan, are far stronger than they were in the canon tale, for they had been aided and protected by Saruman and one another. A great force is assembled, made to press the advantage of the free peoples before Sauron can gain greater strength in Mordor. Steward Turgon of Gondor and King Fengel of Rohan provide forces, combined with those of Galadriel and Celeborn. Elrond and Glorfindel join from Rivendell. The group is completed by Saruman, Gandalf, Beorn, and the Ringbearer, Bilbo Baggins. Sauron's forces are not as great as they are in the canon War of the Ring. The Nazgul have been preparing Mordor since the same year, so Mordor is some 76 years behind their canon progress. In the coming months, the alliance of Saruman is assembled, and battle plans are made. The question now becomes, what is their plan? Their options are the same as Aragorn's in the books. They can attack by the Morgul Vale or by the Black Gate. Unlike Aragorn's mission, this is not a desperate act of distraction. However, one reason to not take the Morgul route remains, for it is a valley where the minds of living men would turn to madness and horror. Thus the Great Alliance sets forth, laying siege to the Black Gate. This great structure, built by Sauron in the 1000th year of the Second Age, sees its second Great Alliance march upon the lands it protects. Knowing he is currently outmatched, Sauron has no reason to open the gate and engage in open war. After months of bombarding the gate, it would finally give in, and open war comes to the forces of Mordor. However, over this period of time, as the ring is so close to the lands of its creation, it begins to affect its bearer, far more than it would have in 60 years of peace in the Shire. But it is not only Bilbo the ring affects. Those around him hear its call as well. The wizards, the elves, even those among men. The alliance of Saruman marches to victory against the orcs of Mordor. Its heroes, some of the only beings in all Middle-earth capable of standing toe-to-toe with the dreaded Nazgul. Yet, as they march closer to Mount Doom, the ring acts more heavily on the Ringbearer and his companions. The first to turn are the men, and before long, the alliance forms lines against one another. Among the last remaining true to their mission are Gandalf and Saruman. Bilbo claims the ring for his own upon the plains of Mordor. Saruman tries his last desperate act, using his greatest power, the power of his voice. "Bilbo, this is not who you are. You are meant to return to your home, to your armchair. Let us take the ring to Mount Doom, my friend. Let us be rid of it." But not even the voice of Saruman could pierce the veil now covering Bilbo's mind. He is consumed by the ring of fire. The ring is mine. Despite the wise and powerful resisting the ring as best they could, they are no match for their own overwhelming forces. The battlefield descends into chaos. And finally, in this moment when the situation is most dire, the doors of Barad-dûr open. A new, smaller force emerges, and at its head is Sauron. The Dark Lord has come to reclaim what is his. Once more, he shall take his place as the Lord of the Rings. Obviously, having Saruman on the good side shakes things up quite a bit in the war against Sauron. And with the Lord of the Rings Fate of the Fellowship, you can fight this battle yourself. It's a brand new cooperative board game where your fellowship of characters has to help Frodo reach Mount Doom. It features some great artwork of your favorite characters, plus the great dice tower of Barad-dûr. Visit the link in the description and order your copy of The Lord of the Rings Fate of the Fellowship. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to all my Patreon and YouTube supporters who make this channel possible. Tom DeBombadil19, Lissamy the Cinda, Rabbi Rob Thomas, Charles Leisure, CCDC Red Team, Joe Tepper, The Mighty Mim, Andrew Carlisle, Swirled Traveler, Matthew Jeffrey, Viking Lord, Alvin Einbert, Jeremy Daniel Derby, Madame Director, Leo Vittori, Sky Carcass, Slide Belts, Dane Ragnarsson, Berto Berg, Graham Derricott, The Dark-Haired One, Wyland, Z and N, Evely, Kia, Freya Firestar, Micah Wu, and Debbie. If you enjoyed the artwork in this video, check out the artists in the description to purchase prints of their great work for yourself. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.